Hello, and welcome to Quartet Life Crisis. That's cries in and sis as in hey sis. Now I am your host, Ayomide. Yeah. Before we get into this, before I explain a few things, whatever it is that you're doing, wherever it is that you are, put it down for a sec, and let's take a deep breath in and out together. Remembering to take the breath out is very important. Okay, don't hold it in. Don't die. We need you here. Yeah? All right. Deep breath in and out. Okay. So, first things first, I don't know if this may sound a little bit different from other episodes, or even if it doesn't sound different from other episodes, it's probably going to sound different from the rest of this episode. And that's because I've had to re-record the intro because I messed a few things up, but I don't have time to go back to the studio, or to a studio. And so the sound is going to be different. Basically, when I was putting everything together, the intro kind of overlapped with something else that I was talking about, and there's no way to separate them, so I needed to do another intro. And also like cut it from where you can actually just hear me talking, because basically when it starts, it sounds, you hear there's two of me, and as much as two of me would be a great blessing to the world, you don't need to hear two of me saying two different things at the same time. It's confusing, which is why I've had to re-record this intro. It's going to be a little bit different. I don't know if you can also hear the sound of my voice. I'm not exactly feeling the best, but the rest of this podcast will not sound like this because I pre-recorded it when I was feeling a lot better. And so because of that, I obviously need to reintroduce what this episode is going to be about. I mean, you kind of would have already seen it in the title, but I wanted to talk about neurodivergence and being neurodivergent, what it means, and maybe the ways in which our healthcare system can do better at helping those people who are neurodivergent. Yeah, I think that's enough of what I'm going to say. And so it is going to be a bit of a jump. It's going to sound like a bit of a jump from this part of the podcast to the next one, but just bear with me. And yeah, let's get into it. All right. And here is Past Me in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the first thing I want to say, / the first like caveat, or what's the word? Oh my god. Disclaimer is I am not clinically diagnosed as neurodivergent. Like, I don't know. And I'm one of those people who really, there's some people who like to like self-diagnose and be like, yes, and like kind of opt it. I'm so like, I can show all the signs of being neurodivergent, and you can tell me I probably am, and I'll still be like, no, I'm not, until a doctor tells me or I get officially diagnosed, because I think I don't want to, I take it seriously basically, and I don't want to say that just because I have these traits that I am, because there are people who really are, and I don't want to like skew that. I don't know if that makes sense, because what if I'm not? And I don't want to take away from the people who really are, and from like, I don't know if seriousness is the right word, but like, yeah, I guess seriousness is the word, the only word that I can think of right now. With that said though, a lot of my officially diagnosed, medically diagnosed neurodivergent friends say that I am, or that I have tendencies of it. And so it could be a thing, but the way I live life right now, I don't necessarily think the way I think or the way my mind works hinders me too much, to an extent that I would go and medically find that out, or like get that official diagnosis, especially with the way the NHS is now as well. Like, I know some of my friends have been waiting. Like, if I really wanted to, actually, I think I would do it private. And right now, the funds are not funding that way. But if they ever do, not if, but when they do, I would definitely like get checked out. It would be so embarrassing, but also validating, actually, if it turns out I'm not neurodivergent, to be fair, I guess, because I think knowing is, which is really funny because last week's episode was about not knowing, but I think knowing whether I am or not, like officially, will be liberating, not validating regardless. And I guess like if I am, then I can tell all my friends, bro, you were right. But the reason like why I want to talk about it is because one, like, you know, my friends say like, bro, I'm not gonna lie, you show a lot of neurodivergent tendencies and like traits or whatever. But also because I feel like a lot of my friends now are also, or people around me, not just friends, but they're finding out like officially being diagnosed as neurodivergent, and you know, we're adults, you know. So this like it's things, I don't know if you can develop it. I don't think so. I don't know. I should have maybe done my research on that. And I just feel like so many people are finding out that they are, you know, whether it's like autism, whether it's like ADHD, whether it's I think those are the two that I know. Is BPD? Is that part of being neurodivergent? I don't know. Yeah, but I feel like loads of people are finding out that they are, you know, officially. And I think not everyone, loads of people have these tendencies. And so I'm just like, what does it mean to be neurotypical then? That's what I've been wondering. And also, if so many people are neurodivergent, then isn't being a neurotypical, or like, I feel like the scales have been tipped in such a way that like being neurotypical is the actual neurodivergence. You know what I mean? Because obviously neurodivergent means that your mind works differently to everyone else's. But if the majority of people are neurodivergent, then that doesn't mean that the neurotypical people are actually the neurodivergent ones. I'm just saying, it's just a question. It's just a question. Please don't come for me. It's just a question. It's just a thought that I had, which is why I wanted to talk to you guys about this. Like, this episode might be very short. Like, is neurodivergence the actual neurotypicalness? You know? I don't know. Is it? Is it though? Because maybe it is. And if it is, what does that mean for the world as we know it? Like, what if only a few people are actually neurotypical, like in the actual meaning of the word, but it's the neurotypical people that obviously run the world. And so they've said, this is how you should think, this is how things are supposed to be, and if you don't fit into it, well, I mean, because we know that like the world is not built in a way that there's many ways in which the world is not necessarily built in a way that accommodates difference, whether that's physical difference, so, you know, people who are differently abled, or, you know, mental differences, although I think we're trying to start that now. What am I trying to say? But yeah, what if like the world was built in this way, but it turns out that most people are actually neurodivergent, but obviously because of like, I think with neurodivergence, I think most of the time people look for it to be like really obvious and really like conspicuous, and you know, and they look for the people who are like really like is it far down or far up on the spectrum, who's like you know, it's obvious this person has ADHD, or it's obvious this person is autistic, and you know, they like, and all the different like stereotypes that we have associated with these different types of neurodivergence. But obviously we're learning that it's more subtle, and that when people are like, oh, I think this way, I do this way, and people are like, wait, what? You do that? I don't do that. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, so I'm different, you know. And we're realizing all these things, and I'm just thinking that because of the way medicine, technology, our minds are developing, and you know, things are becoming more normalized, is it actually the fact that neurodivergence is actually the normal, the way neurodivergent people think is, and when I say normal, because normal literally just means like the majority, or like most people, right? I don't know. Is that bad to say? Because what's normal just comes from like what the majority experience, right? When someone's weird, it's because they don't fit into like the norms of, this is what we've said and this is what everyone does, right? So if, let's say, 80% of the population eventually find out, this is hypothetical, please, okay, find out they are neurodivergent, and only 20% of the population, the world's population, are neurotypical, the balances are kind of skewed, isn't it? So doesn't that mean neurodivergent people are actually the normal ones? Yeah? I know I already said this, but basically I'm trying to help you understand what's going on in my brain and how I'm thinking about it, so you don't like crucify me for what I'm saying. But also maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. Like, what am I... I don't want to keep going on a tangent, but that's my thought. That was my main question. I just wanted to give some context to it. And yeah, if that's the case, where do we go from there? What do we need to change? And even if that's not the case, what do we need to change? Because regardless, so many people are neurodivergent. So what do we need to change? How do we change it? How does that go about? And do we make like a standardized test? I don't know why I'm asking these things because I can't implement them. I'm just asking this just conversation, yeah? Because I think part of the quarter life crisis, or even having a crisis, for example, can be, finding out more about the way you think, the way your brain works, and if that is different to other people. And, I think the more you know about yourself, the easier it helps you to move through life. And the more validation you have, I guess, in yourself, because you're like, oh, I think this is weird, but then you're like, oh, there's a label, and you're like, oh, okay, that explains a lot, and I'm not the only one. Okay, I digress. But basically, yeah, what do we need to implement into... Yeah, okay, no, sorry, I was saying that, do we create like a standardized test or not standardized, yeah, I think that's the word, or a test or something, like when we all reach a certain age of like, okay, I don't know whether it's like whatever the best age, because I'm not a scientist, of like assessing the way a child's mind works. Like, do we put that in for everyone so that and and also make it something more accessible so that from a young age, like if you are neurodivergent or whatever, so you're not like thinking you're alone in the world, or wondering why it is that your mind works this way, why you can't understand people, or why like you don't get emotions the same way people do, or why, do you know what I mean? So like, the kind of the same way that when like girls turn 25 in the UK, we get a letter being like, you need to come and get your pap smear. Do you know what I mean? So something like that. And then maybe every 10 years, every 15 years, you do it again to just see. Because I feel like the test should be done twice. Once when you're a child, and then once again when you're like 25, 26. And not because I'm 25, but because of the thing about how like 25 is when your frontal lobe fully develops. Because it's possible maybe that a child starts off neurodivergent, and also I think maybe if they know, I don't know, okay, but maybe a child starts off that way, and I don't think it disappears, but I think maybe just getting reassessed again at 25 can be reaffirming. But then also it's possible, because I don't know how it works, I'm not a scientist, remember, I'm just hypothesizing. Maybe I should have done some more research before I come to sue me, I'm sorry. But maybe it's possible that different types of trauma, different types of experiences could take you from being neurotypical when you're a child to when you get the test first, and then by the time you're 25 and your frontal lobe is developed, maybe you become neurodivergent because of the way your brain has had to protect you and work around things, because of whatever's happened. I think that could be interesting to put into place. Yeah, and that's all I got to say on that. Let me know what you think. Let me know if through this podcast and me talking, if you think I've displayed any signs of being neurodivergent. Again, I'm not saying I am. I'm not saying I am, because I really don't want to claim that until I know, until somebody who's professional and knows how to diagnose it diagnoses me. So until then, I'm neurotypical. Boring, but I'm gay, so it's fine. I really want to not be like other girls, I want to be different. But yeah, that's it. That's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me. You can find me on Instagram at @IamMidnight, AYOMID_night, like the opposite of day. You can find me on TikTok at @IamMidnight, also AYOMID, then night, but like the one in the shining armor, so with a K, no underscore. And you can find me on YouTube with the same name. If you're listening to this on YouTube, then you already found me. Congratulations. Yeah. Like I said, that's all. Thank you for listening to Quarter Life Crisis. I hope you stay a while and lend me your ears again next week. Bye.